Hello, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. I would like to thank each one of you for being a part of the 16th Marketing Conclave, organized by Internet and Mobile Association of India and powered by Z5. This event is spread across 2 days with 4 parallel tracks and over 50 knowledge sharing sessions. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our gold partners, Infobip, Brandwagon, Flipkart, Jagra New Media, our silver partners, Telesign and ShareChat, our creative partner, Blink Digital, and our knowledge partner, Nielsen. Wow. So without any further ado, I would like to commence with our next session. This session is a panel discussion on the topic Selling to the Aspiring Class. For the same, I would like to welcome our moderator, Mr. Gulrez Alam, Chief Investment and Strategy Officer, Affle, and our esteemed panelists, Mr. Manish Chaudhary, co-founder, Wow Skin Science, Ms. Malika Dutt Sadani, founder and CEO, The Moms Company, and Ms. Molly Kapoor, Head of Marketing, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. We welcome all of you, and I would now request Mr. Gurrez to please take over the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Garima. And thank you, IAMAI, for organizing the 16th edition of the Marketing Conclave. Before I start talking about the topic, the topic is selling to the consumer and the aspirant class. Let me ask the panelists with a fun question. What is the best and the worst purchase you've made online?
So, Gulrez, you asking me? Sorry, you cut off for me.
Ladies first. I want to start with ladies first. So,
okay. All right. So, I will talk about the most exciting recent purchase that I've done online, and that's a vacuum cleaner. So that's been my most, precious purchase of late due to COVID, lockdown, etc. And I really value it. I think the worst purchase, can't say, because worst purchases we just return, right? So,
right.
so I just forget them after returning.
Fantastic. What about Malika?
So I was just going to say, with the lockdown, I bought a vacuum cleaner, which was very, very useful. I think the houses went through a complete revamp on cleaning items during lockdown because nobody was coming home to do work. And I think the worst purchase I did was a piece of clothing that I'd ordered online from this website that I'd started, and it's also about 3-4 years back. And I say it was the worst purchase because I had the worst experience returning the item. I couldn't return the item at all. So I think more than the product, it was the experience with it which made it like the worst purchase for me.
And I'm sure you did give your feedback to the brand.
Everywhere, but no response. So.
Well taken. What about Manish?
Mine is hilarious. So I do almost everything of mine digitally, and my wife has come from a matrimonial site online. So that's the best purchase I've had. And the worst would be I think a fake product coming, and I think I would have been a victim to many, and that's a menace online. So these have been my best and the worst, what I could just top of my mind.
Well taken. And before I begin the topic, let me give a small gift to the audience. We obviously will have an interactive session, and in the end, we'll have a Q&A. And to the best question, we will also give a gift hamper from Manish Wow Skincare. So please be geared up. Please ask interesting questions, and we'll have a gift hamper sent to your place. All right, let me dive deeper into the topic today. And obviously, when we're talking about selling it to the aspirational class, if I can call the aspirationals for today's discussion, let me ask Molly. Molly, you spent 20 years in the financial industry, and you talk about audience investing into an SIP product or a mutual fund. How have you noticed the audience behavior changing in the last 5 years?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Your voice was breaking a bit.
Yeah, there was some background noise. I was saying that you've spent 20 years in the financial industry, and I'm sure you have seen consumers' perception online evolving. How do you
Yeah,
define
yeah.
your aspirational class, and what has been the changes in the last 5 years?
Yeah. See, from a behavioral point of view, I observe, a lot of changes, uh, aided by technology. So it's more like there's a push and from the digital end and from the technology end, and hence the behaviors are changing a bit, right? So the surface behaviors are definitely changing. What I have observed is that, like, coming from a mutual funds space, it was very difficult to explain mutual funds earlier to prospects, right? It was not a subject that was easily understood or easily discussed also. However, what I've observed in last couple of years is that it's really become fancy, and it's gaining that space that it deserves slowly over a period of time. And really, thanks to the digital platforms, because the reach has increased. It has so many modes to explain the concept, and obviously the reach can be much larger through digital, right? So yeah, so I think from an average age of, let's say, 35 to 45 as our TG, now the TG has become 30 to 40 as our core TG. So that says a lot, right? That a lot of youngsters are interested. It's become a little fancy to talk about mutual funds, yeah, and it's also becoming a little bit of I would say, a common subject to talk about, which was not the case probably 5 6 years back. So that's a good sign. Actually, multiple good signs that are opening up to this idea of investing in mutual funds right on from their first salaries.
If I talk about 5 years back, Molly, what percentage of your business was coming from all today?
Oh, it was very limited. I mean, there's a drastic change. If I talk about today, it's 100% online, thanks to
Wow.
COVID, right? Yeah. So that's the change. So now you can imagine, even if it was, and back then I think it was about 10 11% was online. So that's been the rapid change that we've seen in the last 4 to 5 years, and it's phenomenal.
It is absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
Malika and Manish, you both run a business which is digital first, which essentially means you're only selling digitally, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask this question to Malika. Malika, how do you see your target audience and the changing behavior?
So I think, for us, we've got our target audience starts from around 27 years of age, and goes up all the way about 35, 40 also at certain point of time, right? So it starts off with when you get pregnant and then go on. I think what's changed a lot over the last couple of years is the fact that people have got very comfortable with shopping online. About 5 to 6 years back, people were still hesitant to put in your credit card details. They would be like, I don't know how safe it is, how safe it is not. But with avenues opening up and making payments more easier to be done online, and also at the same point of time, availability of internet to literally everyone across the country is both which is sort of fueled in to help the business grow online as well, right? So the access is not just restricted to just buying it from your local kirana shop, but then you can reach out to Amazon, and Amazon or Nykaa or First Try, Flipkart, taking on the role of your nearby supermarket, which is what's like really changed. Now people see them as their partner for shopping. So that's the first change over the last 5 years. And COVID has completely taken it to another level because there's a massive discomfort for people to go out and shop. And whatever you can sort of shop online gets shopped online. So that's seen a surge also because of COVID in the last 5 months as well.
I'm sure. And you mentioned an interesting point about internet being available in India. So interesting question for the audience, and this is one of my favorites. In 2017, the Geo was launched in India, right? And before 2017, or let's say I should say till 2017, there were 160 countries which were measured in terms of data consumption per capita. And out of those 100, audience, what's our rank today in terms of data consumption per person in India in 2020? I'll wait for the answers. Anyways, let's move on to Manish. Very interesting, Manish. I read that you had no background about the FMCG business before starting your Wow Skincare business. And the way you started it's a fascinating story. The way you started this business is by analyzing the consumer search behavior or the patterns online, right? Tell us more about that, and then I'll ask you questions about your audience online.
Thanks for the introduction. Just talking about the basics first, I think India has changed a lot. 2016, 17, when we wanted to get into hair care and skincare as a company, a lot of people wrote off saying, you know what, people are not going to come and buy an unknown brand online. It's always going to be a challenge. You're going to be fighting the conventional retailers where most of the touch points or customer trust areas would be either a beauty assistant or a retailer. But it was amazing to see what data and analytics really does to understand what a consumers demand, what they are looking for, what they're searching for, granular moves on understanding that. And a brand like us has to continue to be constantly listening to their customers. It cannot be driven anymore with what a gut is driven by. Like when I say gut, it doesn't mean that the founders, what they say is the final decision on what you build for the customers. It's all about how do you build a product and a customer story, what consumers want to see. It was extremely fascinating to see how India has changed. And when I say about that, I talk about the power of the internet today. Just imagine 7, 8 years back, if you ever had a problem or you want to solve a problem, who were you dependent on asking for answers? It could be either a friend or a brother or a mother or a closest chemist. But today, I think Google is a friend of everybody, right, for answers. And today, consumers are very, very granular on what they want to see, what they don't want to see in their product. And brands like us, new age brands, have got a lot of insight flow, which gives a lot of advantage for them to build a brand as well as build a strong product portfolio in their offerings. And it's all early days for us, as I mentioned early, but it's fascinating to see our TGs starts from right down from 18 to 28, which is our large bucket of buyers, and then it goes beyond. So I have not yet gone to the larger consumers. I'm still at the millennial segment, and that shows that young India wants to look good and feel good at a young age. A lot of their savings or their pocket money has been deployed into their health and wellness, which is very encouraging. And these are very strong data points for years to come for brands like us on the internet.
Manisha, I understand that you have significant presence outside India as well. Is the target audience any different? Have you noticed any different?
Slightly, yes. The US market where we do it's a much more matured market than in India. India, if you see, we are a very deprived, under consumed health and beauty as a segment. We don't take care of ourselves that much, but the West does. So obviously the TG bar increases there. We are slightly at the 25 to the 40 band. Not like India where it's 18, which really shows young India's really preference, wants to be healthy and beautiful at a younger age. Obviously, US larger market, more matured, a lot of participation of consumers in that, a lot of disposal of income more than India, but we are catching up. We usually are laggards, but we overpass expectations in years to come, and we are all waiting for that best part of the story to come, which is a few years away for us.
Oh, absolutely. And let me assure you, in some of the digital innovations, we are actually ahead of some of the developed markets. We'll talk about that and more. Let me also ask you, I'm assuming that all of you are investing significantly in the digital marketing. You're selling online. Most of the businesses are online these days. Let me ask you about your digital playbook. What are the latest tools or technologies that you've invested in getting specifically the consumer insights? You know, we're talking about the aspirationals. How are you capturing this consumer insight? And if I can ask Molly this question.
Sure. See, the beauty of digital and the problem with digital is that everything is so real time. and there are so many multiple levers that you have to keep on watching on a real time. It's like, it's like watching a dashboard or multiple dashboards, just going on simultaneously. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's no limitation to hearing when it comes to digital. It can be endless, right? It can just blow your mind, and you can just get lost in the amount of information that you can get through digital, and while understanding what your consumers are trying to say. And therefore, it is important that we narrow down on certain things that we really want, which are brand relevant, and then we understand what is the consumer behavior. So even today, of course, we listen to consumers digitally, but I also rely on behavioral researches, right? Which may or may not happen digitally. In my case, I don't do those digitally, right? I have a consultant who actually does more offline researches, which are more cognitive, right? Because this beyond your surface behavior, there's a cognitive behavior, and if you understand that behavior, that will reflect on what you do digitally or otherwise, right? So I normally pair the two. We do cognitive research, we do polys, but we also, of course, continuously keep looking at dashboards that are so some of the ways, like of course, keywords are one of the things, and we have an agency which is continuously listening to the customers. We are not just looking at the behavior within financial services, but I think when we talk about behavior, it has to be an overall holistic kind of understanding of what a consumer is doing today, right? So, for example, you don't pick up newspaper nowadays. Most of the digital consumers, you pick up Twitter, or you pick up a news app, and then you just see the news. So that's how the behavior is changing. Many people don't have television in their houses now anymore, right? So these are some of the behaviors that we continuously. So these are the larger ones. Of course, real time behaviors are very, very nimble. You have to catch them as on the go. Okay, and so much so that sometimes external environments kind of impact behavior so much that you have to be really, really quick at observing as to what's going on and respond to it very quickly. So for example, everybody gives example of COVID, but in my industry, I have seen various such instances, right? COVID, of course, is a big thing. So for example, any market movement, right? Uh, for a little longer period of time might impact what is the behavior of my consumers. So, net, I have to actually marry an offline behavior at a very large level to an online behavior for a reasonable prediction, right? But to manage an ongoing, business as usual, then those are, the real time behavior that's going on the digital space is something that we monitor.
To map this behavior online and offline, any investments, any DMP or a CDP, data management platform, or a customer platform?
Yeah, so see, normally we have an entire analytics in place. We have a customer analytics engine in place, and we have online tools also. So, for example, we do uh, have audience targeting, we have analytics in place, online analytics, GA. All these things are there, the basic ones.
The standard.
Yeah. So I think without these two, you cannot operate, right, today. So these are some of the ones that we already have. Other than that, as you rightly said, you have to marry an offline and an online data to get to I think one more bigger challenge is nowadays is that, you have so many multiple platforms. You have website, you have apps, then bot, then SMSs, email. There's so many platforms. Even to integrate this data and get some meaningful information, that itself is like a big challenge. So from an analytics perspective, it is very important that we have a persona for every individual, behavior of every individual. So segments, which were larger segments, are now becoming very, very micro segments. That is all driven by how people are responding to all these platforms. So that's how it is. Like for one product, now I have 10 shops versus having one shop. right? So that's the challenge that we have. Yeah, but then we have an assimilation. We do analytics, and we have an entire analytics shop in place. And we try to kind of, though it's difficult, I'm not saying it's easy, it's like really difficult for a digital business to have that data in one place and have some meaningful information. Like probably in Manish's and Malika's case, since they are just completely online, then all their tools just focus on, online.
Measuring. Right.
Probably, I'm just guessing it, right? But in our case, it's like a phygital world, and we have to take both the worlds and then marry the two, and then continuously keep on reading it. And I'm not saying that digital is easier. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's like multiple dashboards running. But just that I probably have a little different kind of a challenge in terms of having a phygital infrastructure also.
Well taken. Let's ask Manish. Manish, your audience, your aspirational class. I mean, I can imagine that it has such a vast demographic or so-called psychographic profiles. I mean, it can be somebody who is highly educated, a management consultant, or it can be a student, as you rightly mentioned, 18 to 25, looking for organic products, or I should mention the most famous product of our skincare, apple cider vinegar shampoo. How do you keep track of these different segments, different audience classes? Any tools, technologies that you've invested in?
So most of our tools and analytics, media buying is all in-house. We don't rely on external agency. Unfortunately, we have not yet built a talent pool of experience in this sector yet that we can rely on experience which is coming. We're slightly behind the West because we are around 8 to 10 years behind where that is on e-commerce, building large business, digital advertising, analytics tools. So whatever we are building capabilities is all in-house. We don't have very less of our KPIs or our processes are given out to agencies to work on. We are extremely being digital. You can be extremely granular and specific on what you want to advertise, where you want to advertise, what is your current amount of TG, what are your consumers talking about you. Let's say today's large kind of proportion, I wouldn't say large, how do you balance greed versus overexposure of your brand online today? Because you're on the digital side, it doesn't mean that you sell a lot, you make a lot of money. It could also be the other way around. If you don't have a process in place, you could have more losses with more sales. You need to have a lot of capabilities of understanding who are your real word of mouth influencers to start with as example, which is 20 to 30% of our business. How do you build a brand? Understanding who's your right influencer for your business. Are they portraying your kind of right messaging long term for you? So these are some of these tech abilities and the understandings what we are trying to build in-house. I wouldn't like to be come and say, what, we got the best tools, because this is innovation at a lot. You have to continue to build great systems and great tools to reach out to your customers better. So we are very, very, very granular on what kind of budgets we spend, what kind of demographics. I mean, look at what the power of the internet is today. I can micro advertise to a set of people, set of community, set of maybe in college students, and advertise right through there, knowing that this is a great place for conversion. So you have to blend yourself for more of performance versus the ATL activity. But today digital really can tell you, and pretty fast, on what your product feedback is, also with running some high performance based advertising. So things have changed a lot, and they'll continue to change. Like Molly said, I think, and I'm one of those people in the camp. I haven't called a newspaper since the last 7 years. I've disconnected my setup box for more than 2.5 years. And we are not the real India story at the end of the day. It's the large population which still read newspapers and large on setup boxes. But the transition is happening, and courtesy digital with geo penetration, and I think that's all coming online. And I think you have to be very adaptive and fast to understand where your customers are going and where you can address them pretty quickly digitally.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, the transition that you talk about is happening and is happening at a very fast pace. But you also mentioned a very controversial sentence. And since I am from the agency world, I need to ask you this, that the decision to not outsource some of the digital work to an agency is because of cost, or is it because of capability?
It's not cost. It's you have to build systems in house that you have to be you have to be dependent on your own systems than giving it out to agencies. Remember, you work with. I have all respects for the agencies. I'm not an anti-agency, but the question is, when you have a team specifically driven to do that, I think the output comes much better. I think the agency, once they take credit of few that we've got an account for this, I see pictures of then going to your competitors with your logo and what they have done. So I like to keep some of the unique aspects. And remember, data has to, by law, also be sitting in your own custody and not being manipulated outside. But we are always open to agencies' work, all respect to them. But I think businesses which are very digitally first should have these kind of capabilities in-house. And 95% of our digital transaction, marketing, whatever we do is done all in-house.
Respect that. All right. Moving on to Malika. Malika, I assume that you're still selling online, right? It's completely online without any physical presence. And given the COVID scenario, I'm assuming it's totally online, right? So,
So about
how do you
95% of
capture?
the business is online.
Okay. My question is, how do you capture these, specific PG that you're targeting, which is mothers, early mothers, and babies? How do you capture this information, aspirational information, and what are the tools and technologies that you've invested in?
So, I thrive on data. So I think the engineer in me needs data to sort of move ahead, right? As I completely agree with what Manish said. We don't have agencies on board, but I have a lot of tools in place that help me get insights and data for consumers. And I broadly sort of put them in two different buckets. One's a bucket of feedback, which is feedback on your current products and the acceptability of the product, how the product is doing, what they like, what they don't like about it. And the other part of it is on market research. What's trending, what's not trending, what's getting searched, who is the person, what are the concerns that a consumer of yours has, what are the most searched terms, not just from a product perspective, but also from a content perspective. So these are the two buckets in which we use different tools and data apps to kind of get the information. So for feedback, what we do is we have social listening tools, which do a lot of listening online and keep on throwing information on what people believe about the brand, what's the sentiment of the brand, what are the, what's the most searched thing about the brand, how's the competition tracking against you. For feedback, of course, you get a lot of feedback on online portals, which is sent out as responses. But we also have a tool called Feedback 5, which throws us information constantly on what the consumer is doing, and you take data from them. Other than that, I have a 10-member customer care team. And the customer care team reaches out to people individually because the segment that we are in, it's a very high consideration segment, selling to expecting moms and babies, right? So there's a lot of conversation that's sometimes needed, which is, I think, as a kind of a replacement to physically trying the product offline. So we do a lot of conversations in terms of reaching out to the consumer on a daily basis. So we have about 700 chats almost daily across all our social/website as a platform, right? So that's more on the feedback front. On the insight front, there's constantly looking out for what are the most trending ingredients, most trending search terms, what are the most trending search concerns, and which is the pocket of people who are looking out for that, right? There's enough and more information available for you online, which allows you to target people very specifically online. So, for example, you can choose people based on interest groups, right? From interest groups, I can sort of really target my audience very, very carefully. So all of this, when you put into place, is how we'll end up reaching out to our own consumer and also get insights from them.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you talked about so much of consumer insights. I want to ask you that how does this consumer insights translates into actual media planning? So are you still using when it comes perhaps when it comes to media planning and actually putting the media out, or these consumer insights or the micro segments that you spoke about actually gets used and translates into ROI?
The large part of the business still comes from the top platforms. right? That's where everybody is, and then you still get them there. Other than that, also you get a lot of consumers from marketplaces. Your merch there also decides on how effectively you can get your consumers there as well. Insights, how we translate them into actionable items, is broadly where the insights decide where would you want to target your consumer for. Let me give you an example, right? If you're looking to do a particular launch, let's say in our case, stretch marks. What you can do is online figure out which cities the concerns for stretch marks is the largest, right? Once I have data or to this extent, obviously my performance gets targeted to these locations. But what I also do along with it is that I activate influencers in these locations. So these micro slash mini influencers who are in that particular city where I think the search is the highest for the terms, and they have a very targeted audience, which is from that particular zone, is what I reach out to, so sort of have conversations with them. That's broadly how you land up using all the information online to decide what kind of media you would buy for what products. Baby is more, of course, pan India, but there are certain products where they require. So, for example, if you take hair oil, very high market for it in a particular zone. So you pick that up and then you blow out and make your media plan accordingly based on where it is searched from the maximum.
All right. Manish, are you using similar techniques when it talks about translating those consumer insights to actual media planning and putting the money on that media?
So see, our approach is slightly different. We don't go all guns blazing on campaigns and on new product launches. We do have our own way and methods of launching. Example like our onion hair oil is one of the most loved products on all my marketplaces to begin with. So usually whenever obviously products of ours are built on insights, understanding how many consumers are searching for it, how big the market could be. We're always looking at, either we're the top 3 in that category to be in. If not, we won't be in it. But it's very important what we do. We usually, after launching a product, we don't have all dollars spent on it. We wait for a lot of organic, a blend of organic and a lot of media blend together, small to test what do consumers think about that product, because it's very important that you're very agile at that time. Because see, you got one chance with building a customer trust online, and it's love at first sight for the customer, or it's a rejection on. Remember, consumers are paying their hard-earned money buying our products. We are a digital brand. We don't have a large sampling activity at our end. Consumers are almost buying it full price. You have to be very, very cautious on what you're building and what you're offering your customer. It's all about, all the last 5 years, I would say, it's all about building trust with your customers. And why are you a why brand to a customer? Why a reason customer should buy you? We have emphasized all our dollars on explaining that to our customers. So we usually are prepared for a full-blown activity only when we know that the product has made the cut for a full-blown execution on deployment of capital. And then we go all guns blazing on reaching it out to more customers. But data and agility and speed at which you adapt, fix, and get it going to your consumer's hand is extremely important. So if you remember, I started with the word of greed. It's very, very easy to be greedy online for more sales, because I can X amount go and deploy on Facebook, Google, even on today on the marketplaces on increasing searches. But what is the outcome of it 6 months, 8 months? What would my reviews stand online with it? It's very important you have that balance, because once you're all in with your customer and you don't have a high repeat rate, then I think whatever you're building today is immaterial, and it's going to go down in dust. So it's very important you have a blend of these two on how much money you can deploy. So I always use the word with my team on the greed. I mean, we are all here for the long term. It's not all about making money today, but I want to make money long term. It's not all about short term. So it's very tricky on how do you balance that as an organization.
I noticed, Manish, that you signed up with Disha Patania a couple of days as the brand ambassador for WOW. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that is one very big decision for us, building a sizable business online
Right.
completely on trust. We've never had a celebrity online, and celebrity as a brand, but look at what it was in the past. A large FMCG brand always relied on a top influencer or a Bollywood star to reach out to a consumer. We always knew it. If you really want to get into the large scale of becoming a large brand in India, penetrating into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, you need to have a different strategy. And we're just about getting ready for that kind of approach. But even deciding who's your right ambassador, right, for your brand, it went through a lot of processes. I remember interviewing 6,000 customers of mine with 10 stars. And we went through a survey to go and say, we just want to know who's your favorite movie star, right? Today it's so easy for board members and founders on a table to say, you know what, I like this. Let's have a vote of it and let's do that. No, we will go back to our customers. Like even in the US, the US team came and said, you know what, your cluttered labels are built for India, not for the US. US likes it clean. So I said, you know what, we're not 9 people who are going to be sitting on the decision table. We'll reach it out to consumers, and we send it out to 10,000 of our own customers, and we knew what was the winner. So today data is so critical. Like even for a celebrity, what we got on board was so important with data, because then you start making less errors, and
Right.
your cost of failure is very small for you to make wrong decision. So
I
we're just
totally
trying to.
agree.
I'm not trying to say that we have mastered the art, but I think today, if we so much boast about D2C brands saying that हमारे पास इतना data है, I mean, people come and say how well are you using your data. So let's see. It's early days for us. Wouldn't like to boast about it too early about it.
I totally agree with this online versus offline multiplier effect. And I'm going to quickly jump on. I'm running out of time, but quickly jumping on to Molly. Molly, we've seen a lot of digital first banks and digital first initiatives. What is it that you are doing to build that brand or the trust offline? Quick answer.
Again, I didn't get your question. Sorry.
I said we've seen a lot of digital first banks coming up, digital first accounts coming up, which are trying to build association and trust with the aspirational class. What are you doing to build that trust for the brand?
What are they doing? Is it?
What are you doing in specific?
Okay. See, what I totally believe that it's just not what is a brand, right? Now, in today's context, brand is a experience, right? There are so many products out there which are very similar, right? Even in my case, every product will have 40 cousins, right? And similar looking, or rather 40 twins. What do I call them? So they're very similar or same products that are out there. So how do you differentiate yourself? So I feel that every brand now, or rather should have already started thinking of a more holistic experience that they can provide to their customers, right? And experience comes from the very first interaction that a brand makes with the consumer, right? So for example, we did a rebranding of our organization, and we had a different structure in place 2 years back, and it was Aditya Birla Capital, that we kind of moved to, and that capital structure. And at that point in time, I feel that a brand, it really matters as to what is the image of a brand that you want to communicate, right? Do you want to be an authentic brand? Do you want to be a simple brand? Do you want to be a casual brand? What is it that you want to communicate? So everything really matters. So much so that the images or the image bank was created in-house, right? We never wanted to pick up images from the internet. So these are so many detailings. Like what is the experience that you give at a branch? What is the experience that you want to give on a chatbot? And it's not just about the buying experience. It's also about it's about the entire journey. Like how do you kind of give options to people? If you're a friendly brand, for example, if you want to be an easy brand, then what is it that you want to like? Do you have policies which are friendly, which are easy to execute? Is return possible, not possible? All these things, really matter. So I really believe in being authentic in whatever you are. If you're not friendly, it's fine, right?
but then don't say that, oh yes, we are friendly, and not execute on it. So I feel brands have to be really authentic, really have, and only then the trust is maintained.
Well, I have a lot more questions, but I think we're out of time already. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for being here with me today. Over to you, Garima.
Thank you, Gulrez. Thank you to each one of our esteemed panelists. This was indeed a very insightful session and very, very interactive. I think all of us has taken very good learnings from this, and we will see all of you in the audience at another remarkable session soon.